Hello, this video is about the communication cycle and it is explained with examples. What is communication? In simple terms, communication is the transmission of messages between the sender and the receiver. Now, what do we mean by the sender and who is the receiver? Let's look at this image. Let's assume that this picture is of a child offering a flower to her mother. The child says something as she is giving the flower. The mother listens to the child and responds appropriately. In this situation, the child is the sender, the mother is the receiver. What the child says to the mother is a message. Let's assume she says, "Here's a flower for you, Mummy. Happy Mother's Day." The mother listens to the child and responds by saying, "Oh, thank you, dear." This becomes feedback. Let's look at another image. This is an image of a teacher teaching her class. The class is listening to her attentively. In this situation, the teacher is the sender. The students in the class are the receivers, and the lesson is the message. Now, let's briefly look at the main elements in the communication cycle. The main elements in the communication cycle are the sender, encoding, the message, the receiver, decoding, and feedback. The communication cycle. This is what the communication cycle looks like. Communication begins with the sender who encodes a message or creates a message. The message is then sent to the receiver. The receiver decodes the message, which simply means he understands the meaning of the message. After decoding, the sender will construct a feedback and the feedback is sent back to the sender. This completes one communication cycle. The sender. Now we said communication begins with the sender. So who is the sender? The sender is the person who starts the communication. The sender is sometimes referred to as the originator of the communication cycle or the starting point of the communication cycle. For communication to begin, two things need to happen. First, the sender needs to have an idea, and second, the sender needs to experience the desire to share this idea with someone else. As mentioned before, the sender is often called the originator or the starting point of the communication cycle. This is because the sender is the one who starts a topic of conversation or starts communication about something. If there was no sender, we would not really have a communication cycle to begin with, which is why the sender is often considered to be one of the more important elements of the communication cycle, simply because without the sender, there would be no communication to start with. Now, communication starts when the sender has an idea. Now, what is an idea? As far as communication is concerned, idea is defined rather broadly. An idea can refer to any thought that occurs in the sender's mind or any feeling that the sender experiences. So like I said, idea is defined rather broadly when we are dealing with communication. So an idea can be any thought, any feeling, any opinion, a plan, aspiration, information, etc. that the sender feels or experiences. Now, for communication to happen, the sender not only has to have an idea, that is, the sender not only has to experience a thought or a feeling, but he or she also needs to experience the desire to share this idea, to share this thought or feeling with someone else. Now let's look at an example. Let's say we have a college girl. Let's call her Jennifer. And one day, as she is just walking in the college corridor, an idea pops up into her head, or a thought pops into her mind. And she thinks something like, I feel I should bunk lectures tomorrow and go for a movie. Now, if she just thinks this thought, and she experiences no desire to share this idea with someone, communication does not happen because the thought remains in her own head. She does not share it with anyone else. Therefore, there is no communication. But if she thinks, I feel I should bunk lectures tomorrow and go for a movie, and I must tell Sneha about this plan, perhaps she will like to join me at the theatre. In this case, what has happened is, Jennifer not only had the idea to cut classes the following day, but she also had the desire to mention this idea to her friend Sneha. Now, because she has this desire to share this plan or to mention this plan for the following day with her friend Sneha, communication will now begin. Let's proceed to the next important element in the communication cycle, that's encoding. Encoding involves translating an idea that's inside the mind of the sender into a language that the receiver can understand. Now, the sender has to be careful to pick a language while creating a message that the receivers can understand. Now, if I am taking a class and I start speaking in, let's say, French, but my students are completely unfamiliar with the language, then French is the wrong language for me to encode the lesson in. I have to communicate the lesson in a language that the students are familiar with, because they are my target receivers. So encoding involves creating a message that the receiver will be able to understand. Now, encoding or creating messages can happen with the help of verbal languages or non-verbal languages. What are verbal languages? Verbal languages refer to standard officially recognized languages, formal languages, and they are languages with words. So when we use words, sentences to communicate with someone, we are using verbal communication. What are the characteristics of verbal languages? Verbal languages are formal, officially recognized languages, and usually they have their own script, their own unique rules of grammar, and their own unique sentence patterns. They also have a distinct list of words or vocabulary. Here are some examples of verbal languages. So languages like English, Hindi, Konkani, Marathi, French, German, Portuguese are all examples of verbal languages. So basically, whenever we use words or sentences to transmit a message or communicate a message, we are communicating with the help of verbal languages. In a video later on, we will deal with the differences between verbal and non-verbal languages in more detail, but for now, this is all you need to understand. Encoding can happen with verbal languages. That means messages can be created using verbal languages, but at the same time, sometimes we can use non-verbal signs and signals to create or encode messages. Another video will explain this topic in greater detail, but for now, here are a few examples of signs or signals that can be used to encode or create messages non-verbally. We can use hand gestures like the thumbs up sign to encode a message. Facial expressions including a smile or frown or something similar can be used to communicate messages. Even sounds can be used to encode messages sometimes. For example, if you are driving on the road and you hear the ambulance siren, the ambulance siren lets you know that you have to pull your vehicle to the side and let the ambulance pass because there might be a critically injured person in the ambulance. So the urgency is communicated through the sound of the siren. Colors also occasionally are used to encode messages. For example, if you see someone that you know wearing black outfits day after day, it might indicate that the person is mourning the loss of someone close to him or her. Similarly, the color red is sometimes used to indicate danger. So, messages can be created using formal verbal languages or by using non-verbal signs or signals. Here is an example of communication using verbal language. Let's say a teacher is teaching in class and her students are being noisy. She can request for silence using verbal communication. So she can say, "Be quiet." When she utters these words, "be quiet," she is encoding a message using verbal language. But the request for silence can also be uttered without using words. For example, if someone places their finger on their lips and has a slight frown on their face, it is understood that the person expects silence. So after the process of encoding is completed, we will have a message that is ready to be delivered to the receiver. That concludes part 1 of this topic. We will continue discussing this lesson in the following video. The link to part 2 is provided in the description. If this video was helpful, consider hitting the like button. Thank you.